Technology can be a challenge for all of us, but especially our seniors.
Even before then, I remember when I was a college kid and I'd get a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was my dad saying, son, I'm having trouble with Lotus. It was a spreadsheet program back there.
Right.
I'd be on the phone half asleep saying, C :
backslash.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
and I guess it's similar to, I mean, I admittedly have trouble with the remote control for the TV sometimes because they just keep getting so fancy, and that's not something that I've taken the time to learn. So we know that technology, especially our phones and our computers, have just advanced. And so, for our parents, that's a little bit of a challenge.
Well, think about all the things that have come around technology-wise just in the last 20 years and just getting used to that, the iPhones, different computers, and now having to do stuff on Zoom and all kinds of different virtual platforms. It's overwhelming for everybody, but especially for seniors.
So I'm very excited to introduce you to Nikki Linko, who has a technology company, Exhale Technology Solutions, and she works a lot with seniors. And so thanks so much for being with us, Nikki.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
And I know you get a lot of questions. You help a lot of seniors. What are their biggest challenges, do you think?
I think the biggest thing with seniors is, they've lived a full life. And then for some reason, these little contraptions it's something that they don't know how to work. They get frustrated. They're embarrassed that they can't work it. So basically with them, when they're calling, they just want to learn about, they basically go into a store, pay $800 for a device and with no instruction and just like, okay, good to go. And they send
Good
you
luck.
and, they're just a little bit frustrated and it's hard for them to ask for help. So, it's one of those where, I think they're just frustrated and they're a little scared because they're not sure of the technology and they don't know if they're going to press something, they're going to delete all their contacts. So it's very scary for them, for sure.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago with my dad, especially in the computer age and now the iPhone age, keep it simple.
Exactly. And on Android phones, they have actually a mode that's like a simple mode versus, the mode that most people have it in. So Android has that. Apple doesn't. Apple typically is seen as a little bit easier platform for seniors. So, it's one of those things where they don't actually have that feature. But Android actually, addresses that specifically. So,
well, and one thing I did when we got my mom an iPhone, which she resisted, she loved her flip phone, but I just said, no, please, let's get an iPhone just for her to be able to do potentially texting, which has not gone as well as we had thought, but I really wanted her to have an iPhone. So what I ended up doing is I looked at it and I pulled off almost every app that could be. So I took off Safari. I took off anything that I thought would be potentially confusing. I knew she didn't want to check her email on her phone.
Right.
She would do it on the computer. So I took off anything I could. And then anything that was built into the phone that is not removable, I put it all into a folder. So that, and just said, and just hoping that she just doesn't click on that folder too often.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of times you can move the folder to the next page so that if they don't really understand the swiping or do the swiping, then they can't get lost.
That's good idea. Good idea.
Yeah. Again, keeping it simple with my dad, especially since he got his iPhone years ago, he'll call me because he's having some trouble. I go, I've lost this or this isn't working or something like this. And rather than going through all the technical detail, let's do this, let's try this, let's try this.
Right.
9 times out of 10, I tell him, Dad, turn it off and turn it back on.
Exactly.
And it works. Son, you're so smart. The best thing is at the retirement place where he lives now, people come to him and say, John, turn it off and on. You're a genius.
Exactly. Well, that is kind of the standard in IT. If something doesn't work, try to turn it off and turn it back on. That's the first thing we'll tell you to do, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what are the things that you think as the children helping our parents, what are the things that we need to keep in mind?
I think the biggest thing is just to treat them with respect. Well, a lot of the clients that I end up with, their family has tried to assist them in the past, but basically the way it goes is the family member gets really frustrated. They get frustrated. They basically just grab the device from, the parent and do it for them and then hand it back to them. So they don't have the opportunity to learn. So when they're on their own, they really don't know how to fix, whatever was broken. And then it just seems like they're not being treated in a way that's respectful, and basically just assuming one that, maybe they don't want to learn anything or they're not capable of learning. And then, it's just one of those things is like going way too fast, as far as and pulling the device and actually doing it for them.
So
Yeah.
trying to help it. And I guess that, and some of our parents want to learn and understand it more than others.
Right.
Some of our parents probably do want us just to fix it for them.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
others that really do want to learn, right?
Right. Well, I have a lot of so in the community I live in, we have a lot of engineers here and, ex-CEOs and that kind of stuff. So they're very curious about, the devices and how they work and some of the technical stuff. So my thing is when I sit down with them, is just kind of ask like where they are. If you want me to just do it, I can just do that and we can write detailed instructions. But a lot of times with my seniors, we can go through that exercise and learn. But then as soon as I'm away from it, they lose it. So one of the things I like to do, and I used to do before COVID, is have iPhone classes where we actually took the devices out and they had to touch their device and change settings and get really comfortable with making those changes and knowing that they couldn't screw it up. That's that's a really big thing. It's like you can always, like you said, reboot and get back to the home screen. So yeah, it's just kind of walking through very slowly and just kind of seeing and engaging where they're at. So.
Well, and I guess also not forcing them to make the change. I was a little persistent with, saying with my mom, let's get an iPhone and let's try it for a month. And if you hate it, we'll go back to your flip phone. But I think that also, we were talking to Mike's dad because he really wanted to get a new phone. And we quickly realized that he really liked his home button, the physical button on the phone. Instead of having to swipe up, we had him.
Yeah, he tried that, didn't like it.
So we're like,
okay, we're not going to change.
Yes. True, absolutely. And the iPhones have been out for 11 or 12 years now. So it's one of those things. For 10 years, we had that little home button. And all of a sudden, when the swiping came out, I was like, okay, because I'd be in iPhone classes and we'd have 3 different versions of iPhones with buttons in different places. And it just gets really, really confusing. But for seniors, for sure, if you can go back to the iPhone 8, and give them that home button so you don't force them to have to learn all that new, that would be fantastic. Yeah. So, and I do see like with family members that are on a certain platform, they want their family member and their parent to be on that same platform. But a lot of times, at 80, learning Mac over PC because we feel that it's easier for them, it's not as easy for them to make that hop. So yeah, just trying to just kind of discern kind of where they are.
Yeah. One final thing that I've learned with especially with my dad, and I think with Kim's mom also, because Kim's mom's in the Houston area, we're in Austin. My dad's in the Dallas area, we're in Austin, is to kind of have a backup plan because it's not that easy to get there and to fix things. So like with my dad, he does Wi-Fi printing sometimes, but if the Wi-Fi goes out or something like that, I've got him set up to where he can know where the cord is. The cord he just pulls over, plugs it into his laptop, and he can still print. It took about 6 months to figure out, okay, this is our backup plan, our workaround to make sure that it could always work.
So many different things to keep in mind. And really, then the computer, that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you so much for this insight, and hopefully this will be really helpful for people just to remember to be patient. And it is really easy to get frustrated because I know that I do that, I do
that with my own family members. I do much better with my clients.
Yeah. The fourth time that mom's accidentally pocket dialed me or pocket FaceTimed me, and she's like, oh, what are you doing there? Just trying to be patient and remember that they want to do it and they want to do it right.
Right. And it's their connection to the outside world. I think the whole reason I ended up, working with seniors is they are so intimidated by it. And I want them to be empowered by it. If they're empowered by their devices, so they know that they can have those connections, it just opens up a whole new world for them.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Nicole. We appreciate it.
And if you have other ideas or topics that you'd like us to cover, we would sure like for you to let us know.
Yeah. Parenting aging parents. It's not an easy process, but if we're all together, it makes things a little simpler.